All right. Hey, Derrick. Ryan here from Event Farm and Derrick Djang from Google. How are you, Derrick?
Hey Ryan, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Awesome. Awesome. Where are you today? I know you get around the
Uh,
country.
normally I'm somewhere else, but I'm actually at World Headquarters here in Mountain View today. So I feel like uh, I don't know, I feel great to be home.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, I always start, or I like to start by just, I see your title here on the screen, but just tell us, what do you do? What's your role at Google?
Yeah, absolutely. So I head up events and oversee our entire marketing event strategy for Google AdWords. Google AdWords is our search advertising platform. I believe it's one of the biggest online advertising platforms in the world, and really what brings in a lot of the revenue for Google. So my job is pretty tough, right? I've got to keep our largest customers happy. Uh, so so I love it though.
Awesome, awesome, cool. Well, thank you for joining our Future of Event Marketing series, where we're talking to 12 industry leaders and thought leaders and folks that we believe that just get it. And you're certainly in that category, and appreciate your time. I've got about, I don't know, 10 or so questions here that we've think will be helpful to guide our conversation, and we'll see if we stick to it or go off course. But if you don't mind, I'll just fire away and get into it. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right,
Let's do it.
great. All right, so some may be a little dry, some may be a little bit less dry. But anyway, first one I got here is you started your career at Google in the technology markets, and then working as a product marketing manager on AdWords. What interested you in the events side of Google and the marketing world, as opposed to other areas of marketing?
Totally. So I would say that I started out in sales for AdWords, and
Okay.
in my role there, I actually acted as a bit of a consultant to technology businesses like Sony and Intel and Apple, and kind of help them understand what digital marketing was and how Google can help them. From there, I moved into marketing for the AdWords product. I truly believe in the product, and kind of wanted to get one layer closer to the business in that sense. Um, and and then finally found myself in the event space. And when I say find myself in that, I don't actually mean it kind of haphazardly happened. What I realized was I missed the customer and one-on-one interactions that being on a sales team afforded me. But I also really loved the strategy and kind of long-term projects that came along with marketing. And I thought events was the perfect combination of the two, right? You've got the ability to meet people face to face, and oftentimes at Google we throw events for our biggest customers. But you also get a kind of a look behind the scenes, and you understand kind of what the product plans are and what's driving a lot of the events that we do put on. So yeah, I thought it was a great cross section of sales and marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we love that you say that because we're an event technology company, and we love the same thing. We think that the human part of marketing is, I don't know, I have a strong passion for it, and I think it's one of the better parts of marketing too. Obviously there are digital marketing tactics that work and are effective, and those are great tools. But in our world, we feel like you can't replace that human connection and that human touch that events allow you to have.
Totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Next one. So I guess on that same thread, Google is probably the pinnacle of technology companies. It's a software company, right? You guys redefined the tech world. And so as a digital company, it's just so interesting, I think, when we're talking about offline experiences, right? Offline events, physical human experiences. So how do you guys embrace it? How does Google just look at events? Is it the same way you just described, that you just want the personal touch, or are there bigger ideas on why offline matters?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think one of the distinctions to make though is that Google has revolutionized the digital world, and most of our products are indeed digital. But the reason we do it is to enhance real life, right? The reason we do it is to make your life better, and to make my life better, and to make everyone's life better. And that's lived in the real world. And so from the events perspective, I think what we want to do is bring the magic of Google and bring the digital magic of Google to people face to face in events too. And so I actually think they go hand in hand in the way that Google thinks about its products, as well as how Google thinks about events. I think, as you mentioned, there's no replacing human interaction. And actually, I personally believe marketing is is at its strongest when you can meet someone face to face and really show them the product and how it works, and kind of show them the value versus tell them or make them listen to it or see it. I really believe that human interaction is really, really important for making a sale, especially for in my world where we're selling millions or billions of dollars worth of ads. That human connection, I think, is super important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so what's on your calendar for I guess we're halfway through 2015. I think you just got off of one of your big events in the Google Think event, which we were lucky enough to be a part of, which was a monster success. But what else is on your event calendar of 2015? Do you guys look at it that way? Do you look at it annually and kind of chart out month to month what's going to happen, or is it a little bit reactionary? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually do our planning on an annual basis. So I'm actually starting to plan our 2016 calendar right now, which sounds crazy.
Okay.
Halfway through the year. But what we do is, at least my team, so on the ad side, we have between 3 to 5 kind of tentpole events for ourselves that are Google hosted throughout the year. Some examples of that are the AdWords Performance Summit, the Google Analytics Summit, and the one you just talked about, our Think 2015 Executive Summit. And we really use those, as I mentioned, as tentpole events to put our big messages out there to the industry. And then we use third-party events, like the SMXs of the world, or the Clicksy Lives, Ad Weeks, Ad Techs, to kind of act as a drumbeat and ripple effect to kind of amplify the messages that we put out into the marketplace during our tentpole events. So, for the rest of the year, we've got Clicksy Live in San Francisco in August, and then Ad Week, I guess, in October. So very much looking forward to that.
Gotcha. Great. Yeah, busy schedule. I know you guys. I don't know how many frequent flyer miles you have, but I know it's a lot.
Like I said, I'm in a long time. I'm actually at my desk in Mountain View, so you caught me at a good time.
Right, exactly. I was expecting to have this interview on a plane somewhere. Anyway, this question I think is really important. How do you measure success in an event? Right, your Google Think event. I know it was a success. My gut says it was a success just by being a third party involved, and you told me you thought it was a success. But what do you guys look at from a true measurement standpoint on whether it was successful or not?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question, and there are certainly metrics that we have, and I'll get into that a little bit. But one of the related questions I get sometimes from some of my colleagues is like, how do you get budget for your events? Like, how do you prove the success? And I think that's like the meta question that we're getting at here, right? Like, how do you prove the success of an event to make sure that, number one, you can do it again next year, or again at all, and then number two, to get more budget to make it bigger and or better next year. And I remember when I first thought about it, I was like, oh, like some companies just get events and you get your budget, and some companies just don't. But that's actually not entirely true. I think what I discovered here at Google is that events really serve 3 main purposes, and I think you can show success on those three pillars. Number one, especially from our perspective and an ads perspective, it's important to have a single message in the marketplace. And events act as that kind of one rallying point where you can get people like product managers to gate launches for that event. So they're thinking strategically about how to package the product launches and announcements to make it those events, and so it's a lot more easily adopted by your customers. Number two, you also have sales kind of rallying around that point as well. And so when you can have sales kind of speaking the same language and kind of all getting on board for this one event and bringing their customers and making sure that they're activating on them, there's a huge benefit in that also. And I think the last thing is really just to show customers a sense of love and partnership. At Google, we have wonderful customers, and we do tons and tons of business with them. So we want to make sure they're happy and taken care of. And I think it's a wonderful kind of show of faith to be able to bring them either onto campus or bring them somewhere special, and give them unprecedented access to some of our executives or our product leaders and things like that. So I think they really appreciate that. And then kind of the final thing that wraps everything up into a nice little wrapper is that we get invaluable feedback from our customers when we have events. And I think for Google AdWords particularly, we have to build a product that works for hundreds of thousands of businesses, both big and small. And so when we have events for our biggest customers who also happen to be our heaviest users, they give us feedback on what works and what doesn't. And we think that if we can build the feature set for our heaviest users, we're building it for everyone. And so that's really important to us. I think in terms of metrics and ROI, we work with our internal kind of CRM systems to see what touch points we have with certain customers, who within those companies we're touching and how often. And then we also go back to sales and say, hey, have you had meetings with these customers? What does the revenue look like pre-event versus post-event? And then we also look at things like product adoption. So if we have a launch event for a new bidding product, do we see that people who have attended our event and that we kind of that we talked to about this bidding product, did they adopt at a faster rate than people who we didn't have at the event? And is there value in inviting more people to the event next time? So those are some of the metrics that we look at to prove success. But I think it's really important to bring it back up there and show impact on the entire company versus just like, oh, we made a couple dollars here and we made a couple dollars there.
Right. I think, I'm gravitating towards a couple things you said there that are really aligned with how I think. I mean, first of all, you mentioned an event is a kind of a rallying point for sales and everybody. It's and I think about it just in our personal lives, right? How many times have you been to an event, a birthday party or a dinner party or whatever, and you see an old friend and you're like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever, right? And I had no idea you were blah blah blah. Just because there was an event, we got together, right? And that's the inherent philosophical premise of events, right? Bringing people together, and it absolutely works in business. And I think sometimes people forget that or just overthink that, or I don't know. It's like when you're saying when you're fighting for budget and figuring out how to allocate resources, there is that just intangible of bringing people together. It creates that cause. It creates that that momentum, and that, again, like you said, that rallying point for people to have an excuse to connect again, whether that's just to thank them or learn from them or try to sell to them or market to them. That's up to the event. But I think that's really, really interesting. The other thing I'll mention too, Derrick, just from my lens and Event Farm's lens, working with you guys, I gotta give you credit. You guys, of all the companies we work with, you guys are definitely the most hypersensitive to metric-based results. I feel that your team, you guys just want data. And I don't know what magic button or magic machine you put it in. I'm sure there's some monster CRM or some sort of tool that you guys use to crunch it all and to get ROI. But I feel it from our side, where you guys are just like, give me, feed me. And then so you're obviously thinking that way. And I think you guys do an incredible job of that. I think the whole industry, just if I make a commentary on this, the whole industry needs to get better at this. Even us, like, how can we actually give you better data and analytics so that those answers are more identifiable for you, as opposed to having to then crunch and do all the work yourself. But I'm just super excited to hear that you guys value that, need it, and use it to justify, what you guys do.
Yep. It's super important to us. Like, obviously, we're a data-driven company. We have a data analytics platform, and so all of the feedback and all of the information and insights that we get from our events, obviously influence the way we approach those customers next time, the way we approach the events next time, and so so all that information definitely gets fed back into a nice feedback loop for us.
Yeah, I mean, people are so easy to say big data, ROI, but like, the understanding how to use it is the challenge, and I think you guys are doing it. Like I said, I think it's a work in progress for the industry as a whole, but I think you guys are moving the ball forward for sure. All right, more of a fun one. If you weren't in tech, what market, what would you want to work in if it wasn't technology?
Wow. Gosh, I think I truly believe that you've got to love what you do, and you have to be proud of the company that you work for. And so if I weren't working for Google and if I weren't in tech, I'd probably be working for a nonprofit organization like the Trevor Project. If you're not aware of the Trevor Project, they're an organization that helps to reduce risk of suicide in LGBT youth. And they provide services like a hotline that's open 24 hours, that you can call if you need any counseling, to more local things here and there. So I think they're an awesome organization. Actually, I work with them quite a bit just on volunteer time. But yeah, I think
what's their website, Derrick?
It's thetrevorproject.com.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's an incredible cause. Yeah, and certainly, the overlay that nonprofits have with events, right? That's it. And, so I would assume that if you went in that nonprofit space, they would be tasking you with a lot of event management.
And they do some really awesome events too.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Okay, all right, a little bit back on business here. In the future, right? So the title of this series is The Future of Event Marketing. In the future, what place will offline events have within the greater marketing strategy of companies, do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's actually one that I think of all the time, and my answer for it just keeps changing. So I think I think that companies need to be really smart about why they're throwing events. I think it's really easy for people just to throw kind of their annual gala or something like that. But I think events need to be thought of as more like marketing programs than just kind of a solid channel. And what I mean by that is think about your various audiences and kind of how you're reaching them through various types of events. From Google's perspective, we have three main audiences. We have practitioners, who are people who use our ads products. We have business decision makers, who are people who kind of split up the budgets that they're given. And then we have executives, who are the ones who create the budgets in the very first place. And starting from the top, Google AdWords, our goal for executives is to get as big a piece of the pie for digital ads versus, say, TV or print as possible. For the business decision makers, it's to get as much of that digital budget over to search or YouTube. And then for practitioners, it's showing them the magic of our Google Ads products and making it really work for their business, so they can increase the bottom line for their own businesses and continue to invest in Google. And so when we think about those three different audiences, our event strategy is very, very different for all of them. Just using the two kind of most disparate audiences as an example, for practitioners, all of our event strategy is focused around education. So, and we have to do it at scale. And so that's really hard to do. And what we end up doing is we go to the third-party events that they already go to in mass, and we bring kind of the magic of Google and kind of build out, say, like a Google Classroom, where we can educate thousands of them at a time on the latest innovations and the newest product launches of Google. On the flip side, for executives, we know that they, our biggest challenge with them is getting them to see the value of digital advertising, because a lot of them come from the TV world. And so our event strategy there is to really have smaller, more intimate, maybe up to 50 people events with our top executives and also some of our thought leaders, to show them, again, like that digital is the wave of the future. And a lot of the content that we provide there is not so educational and not so tactical. It's more thought leadership. And so I think it's really interesting, and I think that's what people need to do moving forward is, really think about which audiences you're addressing in your events and segment and plan and strategize accordingly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned a lot of critical words there: thought leadership, education. Those are all part of macro marketing strategies, which events are very good at doing. All right, we're running out of time, so I got one more, and I'm going to stick on the future theme. I guess what are the biggest changes you see? Like, I guess put us 2 years out, and maybe what do you think we're going to see from a change in the future standpoint, whether it's technology or just attendees' expectations of us, or just anything. What if I say 2 years from now, give me the big thing that you think is going to change in event marketing? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that it's really interesting. I think one of the big consumer behaviors that we're seeing at Google is what we're calling micro moments, and that's where people kind of reflexively turn to whatever device is closest to them, and increasingly that's a mobile phone, for answers, whatever they want to look for something, or if they ever have a question, the answer is immediately available to them, and that's different from how things were in the past. And I think the events industry needs to be cognizant of this too, because in these micro moments, people are more loyal to their needs than to any brand or to any vendor or to any set itinerary. And so I see things and new technologies like beacons or NFC or things like that, where you can kind of anticipate and answer needs in the moment whenever an event attendee needs it. And I really think that that weaving these types of technologies that help people in the moment when they actually are looking for an answer is something that events is going to have to invest more in. I think we've done a good job, and I've seen some really, really awesome executions of cool technologies that help with that. But I think the industry has a little bit of ways to go, and I'm excited just to see kind of where we take it. Yeah,
I mean, it sounds so funny. My head's saying you got an event and you've got 250 people at it, let's say. Maybe that we should be looking at this as that's 250 individual events. Everybody's having their own micro moment within their events. And so, everybody's obviously got a different perspective and opinion on how in their environment, right? Some people are interested in this topic or this area or, this session, whatever it may be. That's an interesting way to think about it. An event is made up of a series of micro moments, which can be viewed as micro events that all culminate, amass to the larger overall event strategy. That's kind of crazy to think about, that you could be producing millions of events, Derrick.
That's exactly right. I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's like a great way to think about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got to run. I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you for everything. You guys are absolutely killing it out there in the event marketing space, and we're just proud to be able to even be associated with you guys because we love what you're doing. Thanks so much for the time.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the other videos on this series.
Yeah, there's some great people. So, it'll be good to compare and contrast notes and opinions. So, it's coming out in a couple weeks, and we'll be sure to get that list over to you.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Derrick. Bye.